Hey, thanks for listening to this Trainer Spotlight episode on FITLETE Radio. My name is George Pagan III. Let's meet our coach.
My name is Benjamin Ludwig. I own and run Buff Body with Ben out of Bangor, Maine. I received my bachelor's in exercise science from the University of New England in 2010 and have held my certified strength and conditioning specialist since 2010. And definitely put that to good use. I've been able to work with youth athletes on a handful of occasions. I currently work with several mixed martial arts athletes, mostly amateur, but some professional. I also have trained some powerlifters, but I also spend a lot of time with general population. I work at a pretty straightforward boutique style gym that's semi-private with other trainers. So it's it's definitely a good time, and I really enjoy working with everyone of all skill levels and strengths.
I know you're an awesome coach and take your job seriously, but to get to know you a little bit more, can you tell us a funny story about your life that happened outside of coaching?
So my funny story experience is a little bit more of an ongoing one between my wife and I, Katie. We both love fishing, especially fishing together. My wife definitely makes it very competitive. She loves catching more fish than me, catching the biggest fish, and that always seems to be the case when we go fishing. Anyone who goes fishing knows it's a bit of a Murphy's Law type of situation. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. But especially for me when I go fishing with my wife. And the running joke here is that her great grandmother was a very avid fisherman. We have a massive mounted togue that she caught years ago that we plan on hanging up at some point as proof. My wife uses all of her great grandmother's old tackle and tackle box. And so I've come to believe that there's a curse with all of the, or anytime I go fishing, I guess there's a curse from her great grandmother to make sure that Katie always catches more fish or the biggest fish, and it never seems to fail. That at the very least, I get a tangled line, I get stuck and lose a lure. I've lost lures in trees. I've had two poles break. It just if it can go wrong, it will go wrong anytime I go fishing with my wife. And it's obviously all in good fun, but she certainly loves to gloat every time she catches more and bigger fish than me. So
We can't train everyone exactly the same. Our clients come to us having different life experiences and sometimes force us to think outside the box when it comes to their training. As a coach, how do you problem solve with your clients who come to you with some common aches, pains, injuries, some physical limitations, or previous traumas so they can still get the results that they want and the ones that they came to you for?
definitely a great question here. This is something that you don't necessarily gain from an education. You have to kind of figure out how you want to approach people, and how to be approachable, I guess, with people of different skills and challenges. Again, whether it's physical limitations, mental limitations, emotional limitations. So I think how I would describe my approach and how I problem solve is certainly the first thing I want is for my clients to feel comfortable. I have a series of exercises that I always introduce to my clients first. They're kind of the base, base movements is kind of how I describe them to a new client. And I run them through those. And I think a lot of times once I've taken the time to describe, these simple movements that are usually pretty attainable for anyone who can get up and down from the floor. It allows me to just break that ice. I can get a sense of how they move, how they sense their body in space. And once they get comfortable with that, I'm able to introduce them to other movements, obviously, that get them more comfortable with the gym itself. I think a lot of times people have a predisposed expectation of what it's like to work with a trainer or to work out at a gym, and I'm lucky to be able to train clients out of a gym that's very very welcoming. And because it's semi-private, it's usually pretty quiet. Usually I can get some essentially one-on-one time with my clients, even though there's other trainers and clients about people working out. But it's usually pretty private, which is nice. So it allows me to really connect and immediately start building that rapport with people. But with all those aches, pains, injuries, I think what's always certainly rewarding for me as a trainer and a coach is reaching that point where I get to show people that they don't have to live their life so cautiously, that they don't have to necessarily limit what they do because of that achy knee or the bad back. If they can be consistent with, these series of movements and exercises that I introduce them to, I can usually get them, feeling really good. Perfect example actually is working with one of my clients. She's in her upper 70s, and for the first time in a while, she was able to reach up over her shoulder and shut the light off around the couch. And she hasn't been able to do that for a while because of her limited shoulder mobility, and now she can.
Just like we are, most of our clients are spending time on social media and can get information from other people in their family and social circles. When questions come up during coaching calls and training sessions, how do you address some of the common misconceptions around nutrition and exercise with these clients?
Something I tell most of my clients who come at me with the most questions is to question everything. Certainly, there is a lot of really great information out there that it's accessible right at our fingertips, and there's also a lot of really terrible information out there too. And I think most people are aware of that these days, with the prevalency of social media and information that can be found out there. So I think most people know to kind of have that yellow flag up when they hear something. I'm thankful to have certainly a base clientele that feel comfortable coming to me with those questions if they hear something, if they discover something new, whether it's nutrition wise or exercise. They usually will text me, call me, ask me during the session, hey, is this legit? And so I tell them, I'll give them my 2 cents, certainly. I usually can identify the things that maybe are gimmicky and not worth their time or money. And then there's other things that, certainly there are moments, certainly when it comes to nutrition, where I tell people, well, you should ask your doctor, ask a nutritionist. I refer people to obviously the appropriate avenues for certain questions. But I think, this question really addresses a big chunk of how you build rapport with your clients, and that's being able to talk to them about the amount of information that's out there, helping them navigate it, and it's interesting how even I find myself learning as I go in that regard, because sometimes the latest greatest thing is something I haven't heard about yet, but my client brings to me and says, hey, can we try this? And we'll give it a go, and maybe it works, maybe it's a great exercise, maybe it feels silly, maybe it doesn't work at all, but I'm thankful to have clients that trust me enough they trust me and my knowledge and my ability to help them navigate the minefield that is social media and all the information that is out there.
Our clients can come to us for many reasons, and often they tell us in their consultations or new lead questionnaire that they have multiple goals, or they're trying to work on a couple of things. Usually it's not just one sole specific thing. How do you approach goal setting with these clients who have multiple objectives when you ask them about what their goals are?
Something I certainly try to do when it comes to goal setting, whether it's with a new client in a consultation or a lead, or a lot of times I have ongoing clients that kind of rediscover goals, or want to revisit certain objectives, is making sure they have a good connection to what that goal means to them and what that goal is really going to achieve for them in their life. That there's obviously a wide range of goals that people may have when it comes to their health and their fitness, performance. And depending on what that goal is, it potentially comes with its certain level of sacrifice in terms of, so when it comes to like a very enthusiastic athlete, my MMA athletes, for example, their goal of stepping into a cage, whether it's amateur or professional, obviously comes with its host of potential injuries and sacrifice. Power lifters are another good example because it's great to be, obviously I'm a huge advocate of being very strong and being able to lift a lot of weights, very satisfying to do so, but inevitably comes with a lot of muscle soreness and likely will come with not to say a permanent injury, but an achy joint or maybe a strained muscle that they have to kind of work through up until meet time in order to be able to lift the weight that they want to lift and perform the way that they want to perform. And so that's a conversation I certainly have with my athletes, recreational or not, is making sure they understand that this is great. Let's go. Let's push hard. I'm obviously going to support them, and I'm thankful that they're looking to me for that guidance, obviously to do so as safely as possible, but making sure that they understand that in order to be as big and strong and as fast as you want to be, it often means that you're going to be sacrificing some function. You're going to be sacrificing joint mobility in order to be able to lift a lot of weight and produce a lot of force into resistance. And then when it comes to, I guess, the general population and their goals, and a lot of times people will, spit out a bunch of objectives at once on how they want to look and feel and be healthy. What I do is just help them kind of, I guess, narrow it down and help them understand that, multiple goals can often be achieved through the same means and through the same methods of exercise and fitness. And so I think it's just part of all the education that I like to provide to my clients.
I believe all coaches should have similar baseline knowledge before starting to work with people. And I'm building FITLETE to help bridge some of these gaps that exist in our exposure to education. What experiences or qualifications do you think are crucial for coaches to have in order to deliver the best service they can for their clients?
This is a great question. The first thing that comes to mind for me is having at least an understanding of how to connect with people on an emotional level, be comfortable with connecting with people on an emotional level, understanding, mental struggles, mental health overall. I think having a base knowledge in those kind of two aspects, both emotional and mental health, is critical for any client. Because whether you're dealing with someone who has, who's experiencing PTSD or any kind of trauma in their life, whether it's in the past or ongoing, you have to be prepared to help them navigate that. Some people certainly look to exercise as an avenue for, stress release. That's obvious. That's what it is for a lot of people. But in many cases, exercise, or a training session, a hard training session, can also overload someone. And so I'll have that conversation with people. I have again, I'll use an MMA athlete as an example, who on a regular basis, she was always ready to work hard and really push. But then there were days where, she'd come walking through the door and I could tell immediately this was not the day to put her through a grinder, and I'd sit there in the room, I'd shut the lights off, I'd put some easygoing music on, we'd foam roll, we'd stretch a little bit, and heck, I'd even have her just lay on her back and with her eyes closed and just breathe, do some breath work and meditate, because I could tell that trying to do anything more was just going to be an overload to her system. So I think, again, making sure that there's at least a base understanding of how, as a coach or a trainer, um, your workouts, how it's going to impact someone mentally and emotionally. And being able to read someone, even if they're telling you that they're okay and that they're ready to go, being able to deliver a workout that they're satisfied with, that's challenging for that person in that moment, but also giving them the space to relax if they need to relax and maybe just have an easygoing workout. So I think the big, it's again to just revisit the finite answer to this question is, I think more exposure to mental and emotional health is critical.
Our industry is evolving every step of the way, and we're getting to the point where it's essential to have some sort of technology within your business for both the experiences you can deliver for your clients and your ability to grow sustainably. How do you use technology to assist you in your coaching as a coach and behind the scenes as a coach that nobody really sees?
Well, I think technology. You can't really, I guess, in my opinion, be a coach or a trainer these days without relying on technology, whether it's to communicate with your clients and for them to communicate with you, or to, for me, I provide a lot of my programming through simple spreadsheets, and I'll share those spreadsheets with my clients. I email them, workout plans and so on. Um, I have a website for my business for people to visit, and it's really just a placeholder for people to go and fill out an inquiry if they're a lead. Um, but I think the big thing when it comes to technology is really just having a phone and a phone number for my clients to use and reach out to me with. I encourage people, or the phrase I use is, think of me as being in your back pocket. Um, and I have a lot of clients that are always apprehensive when I say that because they want to bother me, and well, I don't want to have to pay you extra for bothering you outside of a session. And I reassure them that that's not the case. And how I see it is I want to be accessible in that way. I want them to be able to utilize me as that kind of tool. And when it comes to whether or not it's bugging me or invading my privacy, that's not that's not for them to worry about. I have my boundaries set. I have my privacy settings in place so that that doesn't happen. So that I still have my personal life and can separate that those two lives, so to speak, in that way as much as I need to. And again, I reassure them that I genuinely enjoy those moments where a client is texting me. Let's say they're at the supplement store or they're at the grocery store, and they're hemming and hawing about this product or that product or this food or that food, and being able to, if I can, again, I tell them there's no guarantees, but if I can respond in that moment to help them in that moment, be in their back pocket, literally, and tell them what I think might be best for them and their goals, is I think a massive benefit technology wise to be able to be that accessible. So I think really just having a phone, again, just having that phone number, having a phone that they can reach out to me, whether it's through just a text message, Instagram, Facebook, or my website. A technology just it's these days it's made it easy to be accessible, and I think that's huge to be a successful coach and trainer.
Ben, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some great info about yourself. I think Ben and I have a pretty funny story about getting to know each other. Back in 2014 or 2017, I went to a national conference for the NSCA. Ben knows my wife from college and messages her one day on Instagram saying something like, "I think keep seeing your husband George from your pictures at this event." And by the time she replies to him, he actually never runs into me again during the event. And if you've been to one of these events, it was the national conference for the NSCA, and it was a pretty big one. They're huge events, easily 1,000 plus coaches, 3 day event, many overlapping speaker presentations per day, enormous exhibitor room with poster presentations, huge setups for the exhibitors. So it's totally possible to never run into someone that you don't know there. And that's how we quote unquote met each other, just by having uh, her post images of me on Instagram and him be like, I think this is a person that I've seen before. I think it's pretty funny. So since then, we've found out we had a lot of training methods and styles in common, and stayed in contact. I'm glad you got to know Ben a little bit more through this episode. And check the show notes to see how to connect with him best. And that's all for this episode. If you want to learn more about FITLETE, possibly get your own episode, visit fitlete.com. That's FITLETE.com. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.